Hello and welcome, everybody. Welcome to the No Name Music Cast. My name's Tim, and this is
Joy.
And we always start our episodes with a tip of the day. I think Joy's got a great tip. She was telling me that she was discussing it in her kitchen, so maybe it's a great tip. So over to you, Joy.
Well, there's a saga that goes along with this tip. There's a long sit. Okay, so my can opener broke.
Okay.
Like 3 weeks ago. And for some reason, a can opener is one of those things you never realize you need to buy a new one until you need it, Tim. Like 3 times I went to cook dinner and then I'm like,
what? Can opener.
I went out. Yeah, that was me saying bad words in my head. I can't say on the PG podcast for everybody who doesn't know. So anyway, so I went out one night and I looked for a can opener. I went to Kroger. They wanted $15 for the cheapest can opener you ever seen. I was like, no, thank you. I went to Dollar General Market. No can opener. So I said, you know what? Forget it. We're not having one. I'm putting the frozen pizza in the oven and that's what we're eating. And I went back home. My next tip, though, is, and this will be funny because it plays into the kind of the topic, was can openers are more expensive than I realized. And I'm like, I'm not spending this much money on a can opener. So what I did was I went to the thrift store, our favorite local thrift store, the NCAP store for those who are near us. And I bought 2 can openers, Tim. So my tip is if you're looking for a can opener, go support your local thrift store. Much cheaper. And they work just fine.
Yeah, because the problem is you can get can openers in places like Dollar General or the Dollar Tree. But the thing is, they're going to be terrible. You're going to use them a dozen times and they're going to break. And like you say, you can go to Kroger and you can get a nice quality one, but you're going to pay through the nose for it, especially if you get involved in this realm of electric ones and fancy pants can openers and what have you. But I think your tip is good. Support your local thrift shop, especially our thrift shop, because MCEAP do fabulous work. So donating the money anyway is a great thing. And you probably got a very good quality can opener, tin opener, or 2 of them for probably a discounted price.
All it was I think Charlie took a little bit of maybe aluminum foil or another knife and sharpened them a little bit just for the, but yeah, I think I spent like $3 on 2 can openers and they're much more higher quality than the $15 one at Kroger.
There we go. What a fabulous tip. It's supporting our thrift shop. You got a great can opener. Bingo.
And always keep a spare one around because you never know. All right, Tim, what's your tip?
Okay, my tip is, we've sort of hinted on this before. So as we all know, I'm obsessed with Theranos and Elizabeth Holmes and that whole story. And I've listened to the podcast and all that kind of stuff. And the HBO documentary, and I'm all about it. So I was on the fence of watching the Dropout series on HBO. I was really on the fence. And somebody I know said to me, would you like my HBO, not HBO, what's it, or Hulu? Would you like my Hulu login to watch it? So I thought, well, you know, it's a gift. It's a gift of a login. I thought I'd give it a try. So I've been watching it for the last week. And it's fair to say I'm hooked on it. I'm up to episode 4, or I think it's episode 4, episode 5. It takes a while to get going, but I've got to the bit where it's all starting to get weird at Theranos, and she's wearing the Steve Jobs clothes, and Sonny Balwani is all involved, and he's just dropped $20 million into the business. And I know exactly how this is going to go, and I know how it ends, and every point in between, it's like, oh, it's him, and it's him, and it's him. But it is incredibly well done, and I highly recommend it. Now, for our UK listeners, I don't know if Hulu is a thing or whether some other streaming service in the UK is going to carry it, but I highly recommend it.
Give it a Google and just type in the name and where can I watch, and you'll find it.
Exactly. Do you have Hulu?
I do have Hulu. And I was going to say, Tim, I was watching Netflix. This is where this gets weird. There's a new one that you'll get hooked on if you like Thanos. It's called Bad Vegan. And it's about this lady who ran this vegan restaurant in New York. It's called, what was it called? 396. I don't know. It's got some fancy modern name to make it sound cool. And then she ran this other service called Lucky Duck. And then she ended up marrying this guy and they ended up spending all their money the wrong way. It just all goes, it was all facade, and it's called Bad Vegan and it was on Netflix. And if you like Thanos, I just started today. I was listening to it in the backwards, while I was working, and I watched all 4 episodes that are available.
Oh, fantastic.
So it's just weird you brought that up.
Well, I can tell you one other thing, actually, about Hulu. So, one, I didn't realize that a paid-for streaming service would have ads on it. That seems weird to me.
You can pay more money to get rid of the ads.
Yeah, but it's anything Discovery, Disney, any of that stuff you pay for it and it doesn't have ads. So that's weird to me. And secondly, the app for the iPhone is terrible on Hulu. It crashes, it pixelates. You try and cast it out to your TV, it doesn't work reliably. It's like, sort it out, Hulu. It's terrible.
I will say for Android, I had not had that problem.
Maybe it's built for Android. It's not built for iOS. But
Well, I mean, you can always watch it in the browser on your computer too.
Yeah, I could do. But what I tend to do is I've been watching it in my lunch hour at work. And then when I get home, because I'm not going to keep this login long term, I didn't want to put it on our TV. So I just cast it out to the TV.
Makes sense.
And then thirdly, this is my last takeaway from this thing. Borrowing someone else's credentials. I'm sure that's fine, Hulu. Hulu doesn't care. They're like NBC or something.
You can use it up to a certain amount of people on certain computers. There's like up to 5 or something.
There we go. See, it's perfect. So one thing that's interesting, borrowing someone else's login
See what they want.
Targeted ads.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we have Google Premium now, so you don't get the ads on it. But we used to have ads in our YouTube. And, things that I like, the ads are going to be targeted to me. And even things like you'd get ads for Fender or D'Addario guitar strings and, things that are very specific, you get an ad for that. But what's interesting, having this other person's log into Hulu, it's like a little window into their world, seeing the ads. And I'm like, oh, okay.
And you can see what shows they watch. So I will say there was this commercial. This will be music related to bring it back to the music podcast on Hulu. There was this commercial they kept playing. And sometimes they use a song and they cut out the parts that maybe aren't appropriate for the ad or something. Mm-hmm. So there's this rapper. His name is Dirty Old Blank. I can't say on our podcast, right? And he had this song and it's like, hey, and there's like these girls singing and it's about laundry, by the way. It's like, hey, dirty, baby, I got your money, don't you worry. Anyway, so I can't get into it because we don't want to get sued by him, but it's talking about dirty laundry. But if you played the song just a few more seconds longer, let me tell you, it is definitely not about laundry. And it cracked me up that they used that in the ad on Hulu. I was just like, who approved that?
Who is the children's artist you told me about that would do like kids versions of songs that were not appropriate?
Kids Bop.
Yeah, I wonder if there's a Kids Bop version of that.
If there is, it would have to be very rearranged, Tim. Let's just say Dirty's money was not for laundry. I just died the first time I heard that. I went, wait a second. I went back because you know how like it repeats the same ads over and over again on Hulu and it replayed again. And I was like, okay, yep, that's exactly what I thought they were doing. So then I went on YouTube to look up the song to hear the whole song, and there was like 10 other comments going, heard this on the YouTube commercial, on the Hulu ad, was shocked. Anyway.
Oh dear. Well, there we are. Anyhow, let's get into this week's topic. It's my turn this week. And I decided to revisit something we did very early on our podcast. I think it was episode 3 or episode 4. It was super early into our podcast, just when we was initially finding our feet doing this thing. So I challenged Joy yet again to go to a thrift shop and buy 10 CDs. Because I'm interested to see, with a selection of thrifting goodness, what Joy would come away with. Now, last time we did it, it was cool. She picked out some very quirky stuff, and it was great. So I thought, well, let's revisit that. And I picked out 10 that I've bought recently. So let's see how we go from here. So I'm calling this episode Thrifting the Night Away 2.0.
Classic.
There we go. So let's open this up with Joy. So what was the first CD that you picked out of the thrift shop?
Okay, I kept them in order. But the very first one that stuck out to me, Tim, and this is funny. You guys hear me moving. It's just me moving CDs. So we'll hold it up for Tim to see. Now that's what I call music number 3. And the reason I picked this is, what are they at now? Like 87?
Yeah, well, as I said, the interesting thing is that the UK Now 3 came out in the 80s, whereas I think US Now 3 was probably 2000s or late 90s.
1999.
Yeah, there we go.
So that's what's funny. But like, from what I understand in America, we're like at 80. So the UK is at like 107.
Yeah, it is. And in fact, if that was Now That's What I Call Music, I think it's 4 or 5 on CD, the UK issue. It is incredibly rare and it's worth multiple thousands of pounds.
Well, that would have been nice to find. I would have been like, well, Tim, I could fund our next ad campaign for the podcast. But no, sadly. And the reason this one stuck out was one, because it was number 3, and I just thought that was funny. But I owned this one as a kid, too. So I had to get it. But some of the songs that you will recognize are like Smash Mouth All-Star.
I know that song.
There's Britney Spears, Backstreet Boys, Fatboy Slim, the Rockefeller, word I can't use on our podcast. Yeah. Limp Bizkit's Nookie song, their only song that I actually know. Not a Limp Bizkit fan. Then there is a bunch of people. Oh, Fastball Out of My Head, which is an all-time favorite of mine. So there you go. That was my first pick, Tim.
And if you open that box up, does it contain Now 3?
I did check. It does. As that was a worry, as we learned last time, that this was a problem when I bought CDs. That there was I opened them and it's like the Nutty Professor soundtrack or something. But yeah, I mean, I had to do it. And I love, like, on the Now, I was going through the, everybody's favorite, the inserts, Tim. Mm-hmm. And it had like a whole, like, every album that's on here that the song comes from, it has a picture of it.
Yeah, and that's a classic Now thing. I remember having Now 5, I think, on cassette tape years ago when I was a kid. And you would pull the insert out and it would show all the artists and the original album that it came from.
And then this one also says Now 1 and Now 3. Now 2, it has advertisements for it, which I thought was interesting. And on the first one, it's like Cherry Pop and Daddies, the Backstreet Boys, Spice Girls, Casey and JoJo. And then number 2 had Tim's favorite, Sheryl Crow, more Backstreet Boys, and the New Radicals. I find it interesting. So is Now were they, because for us, I think it's Virgin Records, but was it a UK thing? Like, was it a UK company before it became an American thing?
Yeah, it came from the UK, and it was Virgin Records that started it. And it was obviously Richard Branson. And I think if it was not him, it was somebody on his team thought it would be a good thing to do like a modern-day version of like K-Tel, who used to do compilations. And the original one was just called Now That's What I Call Music. That was the original one. And I remember one Christmas, my uncle getting that on record for Christmas. And then That's Why I Call Music 2, Now That's One 3, and then it just became Now 3, Now 4, that kind of stuff. And I said the UK one is up in the hundreds.
That's crazy. Well, I mean, I remember though, but there are a few songs on here that I don't recognize. I don't know if you do. There's one from a band called Ideal Get Gone.
I don't know.
Shantan Moore, don't know who that is. Blessed Union of Souls. Not a clue.
The other thing is, initially with the Now series, you had to be on the same label or company of labels or collection of labels to get on a Now compilation. I think it's probably a little bit more liberal these days, and it doesn't really matter too much. But certainly in the early days.
Well, that makes sense, though, because Virgin Records were the big ones, like with Backstreet Boys and the Spice Girls. Well, not originally. The Spice Girls were on them eventually. All those pop bands all kind of came from the Virgin Record side of things.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Man, Richard Branson's got to be worth a lot of money now.
Well, he's making spaceships now. I think you get to a point in your wealth where you've done everything you can do with terrestrial companies, and now you make spaceship.
This is true. That's a valid point. I saw this thing, and I know I'm not against going to space. I actually think it's pretty cool. But I did see this one thing where it was like right in the height of COVID, and it had this list of women who had all donated to COVID research, and we talked about like Dolly it. And then it was like, and what are men doing? Trying to go to space.
Well, the argument with space exploration is that it inspires people, for one, and secondly, it builds technologies, and those technologies are used on Earth. That is the argument for space exploration.
Oh, yeah. I'm not against it. It just made me laugh. All right, Tim, what's your first CD?
Okay, the first one that I have, this is KC and the Sunshine Band's Get Down Live.
Specifically
now,
live.
This is classic thrift shop fodder, and I tell you for why. Because this is not a KC and the Sunshine Band album. This is a live concert from 1995 that's recorded and released. Now, you get a lot of these where I don't even know whether KC and the Sunshine Band are even anywhere involved in this. It could have come from a radio broadcaster. Who knows where it came from?
Are we sure it's actually KC and the Sunshine Band in the concert?
No, it's them. But it's one of these things, like a lot of these like acts like KC and the Sunshine Band have been going for years.
Yeah.
The lineup on here is not the lineup that you would ever hear on the tracks.
They've changed. Their bass player's different. Their piano, every time they turn around, it's a different person.
Yeah, and this is a copyright Intersound and manufactured by Intersound Inc., an American company. Now, I'm no genius when it comes to who's signed to whose label, but Intersound Inc. to me doesn't sound like EMI or Virgin or Geffen or something like that.
Universal, at least.
No, exactly. And you can tell, I mean, you can't see on the podcast, but I'll show it to Joy. The artwork looks like I knocked it up myself.
It does. Tim went on the Photoshops right before here and was like, rainbow, I'll go with that theme.
Yeah, and sort of typed it all out in Arial font or something like that. But needless to say, I spent 50 full cents on this, and I haven't listened to it yet, but I'm very much looking forward to getting involved in KC and the Sunshine Band's Get Down Live. And in the spine thing, it's encouraging me to shake my booty.
Well, I mean, that is kind of what KC and the Sunshine Band were about. It's on brand. So, how do you get the rights to do that? Like, is it because it's a free content? Like, it's interesting.
I have absolutely no idea how that works. But
or do you just do it and hope they don't know?
Yeah, I mean, this is not unique. I've come across this stuff before. I've got a Rolls Royce album, not physically, but digitally, which is the same, where it has all the classic Rolls Royce songs on it, but it's not like anything you would remember for how it would sound normally, because it's just a random live concert. I don't know how this works, whether this was in someone's thing when they played a concert and they signed their rights away. I have no idea, but it seems kind of sketchy to me.
I think they just recorded it and hoped that KC and the Sunshine Band never came around. Never noticed. All right. Okay. My next one. Let's see. Okay. This one's going to be weird, and I don't know if Tim is going to be familiar with this artist, but I will explain why I picked this. Are you familiar with the country artist John Michael Montgomery?
Yes, I am. Hey, did he do a song called Wildfire or something, or am I thinking of someone else?
I don't know. Really, the only song I know from him is the Grundy County Auction.
Okay.
So the reason, and I will post this on. I will do this for the the clout, Tim.
Yes.
The song is literally he's like talking about an auction, right? And it's like, I went down to the Grundy County auction, and then he starts doing the auction part. It's really fast. It's really hard. But if you grew up in the South and you had to listen to 90s country, it's like a challenge you take. So I had a very popular TikTok of me taking the challenge and succeeding. So I constantly play that. And then for some reason, and I don't know why, it always stuck out to me. When I used to work as a call center manager, I had to watch the queues, and I could see people who were on calls, and we had one guy, and his full name was John Michael Montgomery. And I remember he was this 90s, and John Michael Montgomery always has the black hat on, like that's like his signature thing. And I never saw what this guy looks like, but I felt so bad for him growing up in Southwest Virginia, and his parents named John Michael Montgomery. And let's see, I haven't opened this one, but I'm hoping, it is the real CD.
So actually, here's another question for a thrifted CD. If you take it out, does it look like someone scratched it across the floor on the other side?
No, this one's in pretty good shape.
Yeah. Because sometimes you get them and they look like someone's used them like to scratch the floor up. Yeah,
I was glancing through some of them earlier, and a couple that I got from the NCAP store were in really good condition. Yeah. Oh, I Can Love You Like That. You've probably heard that song before. I can make you my world, move heaven and earth. It's like kind of radio banter for country music. Sounds like something one of your, no offense, Tim, one of your bands might do at some point. That's the other song. I mean, I'm sure I've heard some of this other stuff growing up listening to 90s country, but he's not. Oh, look, Tim, look at this quality. For everybody who can't see, he's sitting on a motorcycle. He's got a black leather jacket. He's got the jeans on.
See, and this is what you lose by streaming everything. Because, yes, you get the album cover, but do you get the great artwork that you get in a record or a CD? Absolutely not.
A classic. I mean, this one's really good, too. For everyone who can't see, it's a black and white photo of him sitting backwards, and like the chair is backwards, and he's sitting over the like, there's no other artwork in this CD, but just like pictures of him. Like, there's like 1,000 photos of just this guy. I wonder if John Michael Montgomery was his real name. I don't know.
It could be. I don't know. It's a name I remember from playing in cover bands around here, but not someone I'm super familiar with.
For the clap to save us, Tim, we will. My TikTok of me singing Grundy County Auction will be put up when this episode goes live.
There we go. Fantastic.
All right, what is your album?
Okay, so this one is Elvis. Okay, and the album is Elvis Volume 2, A Legendary Performer. Now, this is one of these compilations, which is a proper album because it's my BMG RCA special products. It's a real album, but I think it's something that was probably made to give away or sell in a gas station or something, because this isn't a classic Elvis album. And in fact, on the front, it says Jailhouse Rock, It's Now or Never, Blue Suede Shoes, etc., etc. And it's like a 10-song compilation of Elvis.
Is it stacked with all the hits?
Yeah, I mean, it's got Harbor Lights, Blue Hawaii, Jailhouse Rock, It's Now or Never, Blue Suede Shoes, How Great Thou Art, If I Can Dream. But it's not classic.
Well, you know what's interesting about that? Those songs are more later in his career. Like Blue Hawaiian, when he did the How Great Thou Art, when he really got into like the gospel music. Mm-hmm. And when you look at the front, you guys can't see it, but I can see the front of the album Tim's holding up. It looks like him when he was a little bit, like, as he got older. Like, I feel like that's a older version of him. Yeah, well, not older, but like.
Yeah, it's Vegas Elvis. Yeah, but he's crying. That is a tear coming down his face. I
can barely make out the tear, but of course he is. That's just funny, though. Well, he was notorious for doing that. But that album, since it's volume 2, I'd be curious to know if volume 1 had like the earlier stuff, because those are some of his later songs, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, whether I will ever actually find volume 1 of Elvis, the Legendary Performer, I don't know.
That should be your goal, Tim, and report back if you ever do.
But one thing I love about it, now you don't get a lot of this in the CD era. It's more of a record thing where people would go to parties and they would write their name on their records. Mm-hmm. And then you find a lot of records in thrift shops where they have someone's name written on it.
That's what that was. I was wondering.
Yeah, so this... It's like a corner of a Post-it note taped to the front. And this CD belonged to Janet. It's either Janet or Jane T. It could go either way. So either Janet or Jane T, whoever you are, I have your Elvis CD, and I will look after it for you.
And if you have volume 1, let us know. We'd like to know what's on it.
Exactly. And I like things like this because, I mean, I could remove that sticky thing quite easily in the sticky label. But for me, it's like it's history. I've got something that someone loved enough to put their name on the front in my possession. So Jane T or Janet, don't worry. Elvis is in safe hands.
And we'll live on.
Exactly. All right, Joy, what's your next one?
Okay, this one is a favorite, and Tim's probably going to be familiar with this one, I think. It's Blues Traveler.
Blues Traveler's Floor. Let me tell you about Blues Traveler's Floor. So there is about 20 titles you find in thrift shops wherever you go. And whenever we travel, like we was in Richmond yesterday, I went into 2 Goodwills just to see what they had. Blues Traveler Floor 4 is a title you will find in every thrift shop throughout the entire country right now. You could, if you wanted to, you could start a collection of Blues Travelers 4s and have like 50 of them easily.
So it is iconic. And I own this album, with the cat. The cat's like the name thing. And I went to 3 different thrift shops to be very varied. Tim, I went to the NCAP store, I went to the Christiansburg Goodwill, and I went to the YMCA store, right? Yeah. On Saturday, I just went thrifting. Charlie went with me. We found some can openers and some CDs. But anyway, every one of them had this.
Yeah, and they will. And then, do you know what? When I was in one of the Goodwills in Richmond yesterday, they had two copies next to each other.
Well, I will say though, I actually like the music on it though. Like Blues Traveler is a favorite of mine. And it's one of the first albums I remember buying as a kid. Because this one has Run Around on it. It has like Hook, Look Around, all their because I mean, unless I'm just not up on my Blues Traveler knowledge, I don't really know a whole lot more out of this album.
No, they had a number of albums, and I have a live album and a couple of others in my collection of Blues Traveler. And, and if you like harmonica music and John Popper, I mean, they're fantastic. But 4 is the one that's their one that everybody knows, and clearly everybody at some point had a copy of it because there's so many used copies everywhere,
myself included. And I love but they were part of that. So I have this theory, and I partially give it because of that movie Ted, where he makes the joke, like in the 90s there was like this genre of music where you didn't really have to sing. You just kind of made sounds that sound like all you had to do is enunciate like the vowel sounds to get the. Oh, it's the Blues Traveler. And I mean, I'm sure if I wasn't on the spot, I could think of 5 other bands, in the 90s during that genre. And it cracks me up when I hear it now because that's all I think about, because they made that joke on Ted the movie. And now I can't hear it all without hearing that.
I could tell you one thing about Ted. So when I met Flash Gordon, Sam J. Jones, the morning of that meeting, we met him in the afternoon. Yeah. Hannah and I watched not all of Ted, but bits of Ted, most of the bits that had Sam Jones in it. And when I met Sam Jones, I was telling him I was a fan, I loved Flash Gordon, all that kind of stuff. And I said, when we woke up this morning, me and my wife were watching Ted. And he goes, he said, you don't want to do that. So that's not good stuff to wake up to.
I love Ted. And if you were watching the parts with the Flash Gordon, the party where they're doing the drugs and all that. My favorite part, because that's when he does the EIOU, like he's making fun of it while he's singing the karaoke. Is I love the part where they're doing that, the game with the knife where you put your hand out, you try not to hit the person's hand, and then he stabs the guy's hand and he goes, "Why did you trust me? I'm on drugs." I thought that was the funniest line ever. Anyway.
It's a good film. I must admit, I've seen the whole thing once, and I've seen the Flash Gordon bits about 10 times. And as I've told the story before, when I met Sam Jones, Flash Gordon, when we were driving down 81 and then 581 and up to the Civic Centre, all of our UK listeners will know exactly where that is. I had Queen's football fight on a loop, exactly like it is in Ted.
Oh Lord, I love that. I mean, I will say, when I watched Ted, I think we were already friends. I thought about you. I was like, I wonder if Tim knows Flash Gordon's in this. Because every time they kept bringing him up, I'm like, I wonder if Tim. And then Charlie went on a big thing of finding the original vinyl for Flash Gordon. And then he gets it. He's like, what do you mean? He didn't know about the Queen thing. He died. I'm like, I don't know how it went right past I love my husband. He's not up on all this. He's like, is this Queen? And I was like, yes. Like it just went right past him, but he was obsessed with finding it. He played it on a loop for like 6 weeks straight.
Yeah, it was recorded almost at the same time as the game. It's a great album because it's one of those old timey soundtracks where it's the whole film and it has excerpts of dialogue in it. So you can actually listen to the Flash Gordon album and relive the film because it's the whole story of the film.
Yeah. Oh, it's cool. Like I said, Charlie likes those really. She's big into big, like eccentric things I've talked about. Like, he likes like the Pink Floyd where the album tells the whole story type thing. So for him, it was like mind blowing. Anyway. All right, Tim, what's your next album?
Okay. So the next one I got this from the Goodwill in Salem, Virginia, because I was playing a gig down that way. So I popped in and see what they had. And this is Pavarotti and Friends.
I'm vaguely familiar with that, but not to be able to speak on it.
Okay, it's from 1992 and 1993, it says. So it could go either way. But the reason I got this is there is a rare Brian May performance on here of Too Much Love Will Kill You from this concert. And it's got other artists on here. It's got Zucchero, Aaron Neville, Susan Vega. Mike Oldfield, Sting's on it, Bob Geldof, and a few other people. But I've had that track of Brian May doing Too Much Love Will Kill You from this Pavarotti and Friends concert for years, but only ever digitally. I didn't really know where it came from. I knew it was from this concert, but I didn't really know. And I was flicking through the racks, and I was like, oh, look at that. No way. It comes from here. So I had to have this in my collection. I mean, I'm not a really big Pavarotti fan, particularly.
I've heard of that concert. Like, I've heard the name, and there was the concert that you're talking about, but I'm not like I said, it's not something that I went out of my way to listen to.
No.
Is that all the artists on the front?
Yeah, they're all there.
There they are. Who's the guy in white?
I'm not entirely sure. He looks like someone I used to work with, but I don't think that's the case.
No, Tim, I could be wrong, but I doubt he's in the Pavarotti concert from '93. Oh, Lord,
but that's the thing about thrifting. You never know what you're going to find, because a lot of the thrift shops you go into, there's loads of Christmas albums, and there's the same 20 titles that you see everywhere, and a bunch of stuff you've never heard of. But once in a while, you strike gold. Like, I would have never thought of finding this, and there it was. It was waiting for me. I paid my $1, and I have this Pavarotti album with this rare Brian May track on it, and I couldn't be happier.
Have you listened to it yet, Tim?
No, because I know the track and I've heard it 100 times. But see, I buy the CDs from the thrift shops, and then I have a system where I listen to them all and check that they play, and then I ingest them into my collection.
Make sure you get the actual CD in the album. Unlike me.
No, I always check the CD is correct before I leave the shop.
I just realized that what I'm about to show you, the album, the case is broken.
And again, that's 100% classic. A cracked or a broken box comes with the territory.
Okay, I have to do this one next because you said it. So he's right. So much Christmas music, and it's like Barbra Streisand and this artist, you know what I mean? But I bought the one true Christmas album that we need to know. It's NSYNC's Home for Christmas. So,
and did you get that from the MCEAP thrift?
I did.
Because I've seen that up there.
He was calling. He was waiting for me, as you said, Tim. And this is one of my favorite parts. Like, when you take the CD out, underneath it, it looks like a little reef.
Oh, isn't that beautiful? Look at that.
Quality Christmas. So, of course, Home for Christmas is on here. Under My Tree, I never knew the meaning of Christmas. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, which that one is the one that plays all the time. That's like the NSYNC Merry Christmas. You know what I'm talking about? Happy Holidays. Mm-hmm. The Christmas song, I guess, is Christmas time, and so on and so forth. Now, what is kind of cool about NSYNC, and I was always Team Backstreet Boys, but one thing NSYNC does well, and if you listen to them, they have really good harmonies. Like, they have really good ability to, when they used to, before they became just like pop artists, if you watch them live, they're really good with their harmonics, which work really well for Christmas music, right? Mm-hmm. So their version of Oh Holly, where did that come from? Oh Holy Night is a cappella on this album.
Oh, okay.
And it's actually really cool. I had this album growing up, and it's really good. We laugh about it because, I mean, the artwork's ridiculous. You know what's crazy though, Tim? These clothing styles are coming back in style, and I don't know what to think about it.
Well, it really surprised me when you see young women wearing 80s mum jeans. Where did that? It came back out of nowhere.
Well, no, all of the early 90s and late 80s clothing is back in style. Like, they're big into the, like, for some reason back in the 90s, there was a lot of like tracksuits and like athletic clothing and things like this. Mm-hmm. This is back in style. If you went on the TikToks, Tim, this is what all the kids were wearing. And I saw this TikTok. It is my favorite thing ever. It's this guy, and he's probably like close to my age. And it's like, it zooms in on like this girl who's maybe, a teenager or something. She's like, look, I found this skirt, and it's very or late 90s, like something I would have worn in the late 90s. And she's like, and when I open it up, it has shorts underneath it. And he goes, you mean like a skirt? Like, do they not know that? He's like, I don't know what to think. Like, she acted like it was the coolest invention she's ever seen. And I'm sitting there thinking, I had like 90 of those. Anyway. But yeah, so there you go. I made sure to find the best Christmas album I could for my thrifting adventure.
There we are. I think you hit gold with NSYNC.
And if I have to make a recommendation, if you want to listen to Oh Holy Night, because it's actually pretty good.
Okay, well, that's good.
There you go.
All right,
Tim.
So this one, I'm very pleased with this.
Okay.
This is a compilation album from our friends at Priority Records, and this is Rock of the 80s Volume 2. Okay?
You're not hitting it with the volume ones today. They're volume two.
No, who knows whatever happened to Volume 1? They really hit a peak with Volume 2. So, as I said, it's called Rock of the 80s. Now, when you think of Rock of the 80s, what do you think of? What comes to mind?
80s hair bands.
Yeah, Whitesnake maybe, Def Leppard,
that kind of thing.
Warrant.
That's usually the number ones that come to mind. Poison,
Warrant,
that kind of stuff.
That kind of stuff. Okay, well, let me read off to you who's on Rock of the 80s Volume 2. Thomas Dolby's She Blinded Me with Science, Soft Cell's Tainted Love, Naked Eyes, Always Something to Remind Me, I'm not familiar with that. ABC's Look of Love, a heavy rock classic.
Wow, they're killing it. Like, I was thinking we see some Kansas, maybe a little Whitesnake,
Yeah, Thompson Twins, Hold Me Now. Gary Newman's Cars. Everyone knows that's a metal classic. Gary Newman's Cars. And The Buggles, Video Killed the Radio Star.
Okay, does the album say... Are we sure that the front cover isn't with the wrong album?
Well, that is a valid point. Let me open it up.
Let's just double check.
No, I have the disc here.
Oh, no.
There it is, Rock of the 80s. And I'm looking printed on the front of the disc. There we are.
Why couldn't they just write Pop of the 80s?
No, this is Rock of the 80s.
Video Killed the Radio Star really goes hard. Here I thought, maybe we get some Bang Your Head, maybe some Bad Company. No, that's what we got.
Yeah, there we are. Rock of the 80s.
God, not even a night. That one's good, Tim. That was a good find.
I mean... You would it's from 1992. You'd assume this has been made, so someone has bought this. This appealed to someone. I thought, I'm gonna get me some 80s rock, some Soft Cell, and some Buggles.
Okay, here we go, Tim. I had to do it. I googled the Volume 1. Let's see what's on Volume 1. Okay. It's on the Amazons, everybody. Let's see if I can see if there's a list here. Hold on. All right. Tell me what's on here, friends.
Some more breaking news from 1991, probably.
It's just as bad. It might be worse. It's Whip It Diva. Call Me Blondie. My Sharona the Knack. Tenderness, General Public. I'm not familiar with that one. I Ran, A Flock of Seagulls. Love Plus One. Okay, I guess A Flock of Seagulls could go, but it's still poppy. Love Plus One, Haircut 100. Words, Missing Persons. One thing leads to another. Tempted, Squeeze, because Tempted by Another was totally rocking.
Oh, it's heavy.
And then the last one is I Got You, Splits Ends.
Splitter.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't define any of those songs as 80s rock. I mean,
I Ran, A Flock of Seagulls kind of could be, but not really. It's a stretch, Tim. Like you're stretching across the ocean to get to that one, but the one that gets me is the Tempted, Squeeze. Like,
a classic rock song there.
I'm just looking to see. Oh, this is very fun. Everybody loves the CD in the comment.
I mean, the songs on both of these volumes are great, but I would not call it rock.
I was just looking to see if one person was like, maybe not a rock CD, but no, they were not. All right.
What have you got next from your adventures?
Okay. I got this one because I wanted to. This one's one that I think you're going to say is probably available at every store since the history of the world, but I want to tell a story. Marcy Playground, right?
It's not a common one.
I figured it would be sometime because I felt like this was like, like their premiere album that was popular for like 10 minutes, right? Mm-hmm. But anyway, the reason I wanted to get this was because I had my story I wanted to tell. So there's a song on here called Sex and Candy, which is probably their number one hit we all know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I thought I was super cool and hip and, was in the know. Made that my ringtone in high school. on my phone. Let me tell you, Decisions, and it went straight into the chorus. It wasn't like the verse where it doesn't specifically say the bad parts of, you know what I mean? But the songs that,
when you're at school.
So it came on 2 times that I made every decision I ever regretted. I was sitting in church, like actual church, and dead silence. Everybody's quiet. People are praying. And out of nowhere, my phone goes, "I smell sex and candy." So that one was one I never will live down. The other time is I was part of it was called Mac, but it's like, think like a trivia bowl or like, you know what I mean? Like those, like where you go do like show your smart type things. I was the captain of the social studies Mac team. Nerd, I know. But I was sitting in math practice, everybody just reading because we had like huge manuals, you know, because they would give you like these giant manuals where they would find the questions. You had to study and study. Dead silence. Guess what comes on? And that was the moment I realized, maybe think through your song picks when you're putting them as the ringtone on your cell phone.
Well, I can tell you my ringtone has always been and always will be the theme to Knight Rider, and that will never deviate.
Well, it won't lead you up in a scenario like this.
No, it won't. Well, what will happen is anyone under the age of 30 say, "What's that?" And anyone of about my age, they go, "Oh, he's got that on it."
And the good thing is you'll always know it's your cell phone, Tim, because the likelihood of anyone else having it.
Yeah, it's the only time I've heard multiple people with that ringtone was the time I met David Hasselhoff. And I think I've told that story about meeting David Hasselhoff on here. And when we was waiting in the line to get my book signed, everyone's phone was going off and every single ringtone was Knight Rider.
I mean, you were with your people, Tim.
Exactly. I felt warm. I felt fuzzy. I didn't feel judged. Everything was great.
All right. Do we want to do one more each, maybe?
Sure. Let's do a couple more each.
I don't know where we're at on time. I never pay attention.
Yeah, I've got this. I always make a note of when we start, so we got a little bit more time to.
Tim keeps the logical side of the podcast together. I'm just here for the jokes. Not even that great all the time, but I try. All right, Tim, what you got?
Okay, so this one. I'd passed on this for a few weeks in my favorite thrift shop, but in the end, I decided I had to get it. I accept the fact that it only has one good song on it, probably. But this is the baddest of George Thorogood and the Destroyers.
I don't even, the artwork on the front is my favorite part. That is, yeah, that one also looks like Tim made it in the paint before we got on the call.
Well, it's a proper album, and it's on EMI. Rough. But the interesting thing is they open strong on this. The first track is Bad to the Bone, so you're instantly into your peak Thorogood. The problem is, I don't know.
It's all downhill from there.
Well, you've got that one bourbon, one scotch, one beer. I'm familiar with that one.
That's it.
And he also does a cover of Bo Diddley's "Who Do You Love?"
But to be fair, he probably made enough off that song because it's been used in every movie cliche since the beginning of time. He didn't really have to do much more, Tim. No,
absolutely not. He.
Like his net worth is probably pretty high.
Exactly. So yeah, I mean, that's all he needed. He got Bad to the Bone down, and all the rest of the songs were relevant. I mean, the rest of these songs might not even play on here for all I know. All I know is it's got Bad to the Bone on it.
That's so funny. I will say, I can think of I can come up with 5 movies at the top of my head that was used in the soundtrack.
Oh, I mean, I think everybody listening to this can think of about the same.
I mean, it's just like Born to Be Wild, though. It's always used in that reference, so.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, the other interesting thing about this album is that you find this on a lot of thrifted albums. This isn't a direct release. It's a music club release. And this one says manufactured for BMG Direct Marketing. So you sometimes get them that say Columbia House, and sometimes you get them that say BMG. Now, for those who don't know, they used to have music clubs where you could pick out, it was like 10 discs and it would be a penny. And then you would have to commit to buying one full price album a month or something like that. But what happened is they didn't seem to care who they gave those free discs to. So you found that children would apply for this, and then they would get their 10 albums and then they would just ghost out.
Yep. I know exactly what you're talking about.
And there's a great YouTube channel called Channel 33 RPM. Frank Landry, he runs a really great vinyl YouTube channel, and in his merch store, he sells a T-shirt that says "I still owe money to Columbia House."
My husband used to do that with like all the things. So CDs, books, magazines back in the day, you know. And what was funny is when you would do it with like magazine subscriptions and stuff, Tim, they just keep sending them to you, even though you stopped paying. You never paid them a dime. They just kept coming. Yeah,
I bought Hannah a National Geographic subscription a while ago because she thought it'd be really nice to have it. She remembered it from when she was younger and she really liked it. So I bought her the subscription. And she read about half a dozen copies, and after a while she just decided she wasn't into it anymore. So I said to her, well, I'll donate what we have. I think I gave them to MC3. No, I gave them to the Goodwill, actually. And I said, when the subscription thing comes through for a renewal, we won't renew it because you're not enjoying it anymore. So I didn't renew it. We still pay. We still get them.
Mm-hmm. I always wanted the zoo books from the National Geographic. I don't know if you ever saw those commercials, the zoo books. We had these ones they would advertise to us in the 90s. It was like A to Z zoo books. And like each one was a different animal. I was always convinced I wanted it, though I never had it. And now I'm like, I don't know why it was such a cool thing for me to see.
Well, it was just cool at the time that you liked.
Now, it would be cool, though. I bet if you had them, and I'll try to hunt down the commercial, I bet if you had them, they're probably worth some money now because, I mean, it was like a thing for like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
There you go. So anyone who has their zoo books, if you want to sell them, you might be able to make a quick penny.
There we are. Go on eBay and see what they go for.
I say that they go, and it's like 2 cents. Oh, that girl lied to me.
All right, Joy, what do you have?
Okay, this one is one that Tim is also going to be familiar with. We've talked about this one quite a few times. It's Alanis Morissette's Jagged Little Pill.
Yes, now that is a great album, written and recorded in a week. That's exactly how you want your Alanis. You want her unhappy, you want her angry, you want the entire world is up against her, men have done her wrong, and that's exactly how you want your Alanis.
Yes, we've talked about it. It was produced by Glenn Ballard. It's got All I Really Want, You Ought to Know, Perfect, Hand in My Pocket, Right Through You, Forgiven, You Learn, Head Over Feet, Mary Jane, Ironic, Not the Doctor, and Wake Up, which, I mean, 5 out of those songs are probably the ones she's most known for.
Absolutely. That is an absolutely superb album. I've enjoyed that for many years, and I have a very strong memory, as I may have told, of driving down to the Channel Tunnel listening to that on a cassette tape.
And this one is in great shape, Tim. Like the CD, it looks like it's pristine. Like I don't think the person who had this or wherever they got it from, they never even listened to it.
Yeah, or they just looked after it. I mean, I've got CDs that are decades old that look brand new too. The thing is unlike vinyl, even the worst CD that's scratched, even cracked, the error correction on the CD player will actually still allow you to play it. And even if your CD player won't play it, you can rip it in your computer, and your computer will work magic, and you'll still be able to extract the audio. That's one good thing about CDs. So I won't buy them in thrift shops if they look absolutely trashed. But if they're lightly scratched or lightly scuffed, it doesn't matter because they're still going to play.
Well, exactly. And like, I hate I got one that had the classic vinyl that had the classic, like, they get the grooves, the waves in them. So when you go to play, that's always the worst. So for people who did not know this about this album, because I feel like this isn't public knowledge, maybe we've talked about it. Alanis Morissette did write all the actual lyrics of hers. Like she wrote all the music. Now, I don't know that she composed every song. I think Glenn Ballard had some to do with it, but I didn't know that she played the harmonica.
There's several tracks where she plays the harmonica. Now, she's not John Popper from Blues Traveler style harmonica. She's not a virtuoso, but it's fine. It fits the track.
Well, yeah, I was just looking through this, and I knew, it says she wrote the songs. Obviously, she's doing all the vocals besides backup. But I did not know that it's her on the harmonica, so I learned something new today.
There we go. And that's another thing about buying physical music is the liner notes. You get to see who's playing on it.
Mm-hmm. And it credits everybody, which is always nice because it takes a lot more than just one person to make a song. Well, there we go. And of course, the album cover is very dreary. Alanis in her best early 90s alternative, melancholy way.
Well, of course she's melancholy. I mean, that's the whole album is angry and stuff. So
good though. I love Alanis Morissette. As soon as I saw it, I was like, I have to get it. And then when I opened it, I was like, oh my God, it's in really good condition.
There we are. Fantastic.
And there's a snake on it.
Oh, what? On the back cover. Fantastic.
Well, that's what's important anyway. All right, Tim, what's your next album?
All right, so I took a little bit of a chance with this because I know one track, and I thought, well, for 50 cents, I'm gonna try it. And this is new music. But by new music, I say it's 2012. So it's new to me. This is this week to me.
Fair enough.
And this is Some Nights by Fun.
Oh, that's Fun is a really good, and what song did you know? Did you know Some Nights?
It's We Are Young, and it was the one that was used on that Chevy commercial.
Mm-hmm. No, Fun's a great band.
That is a really good song. I've had this album digitally for a number of years, and I haven't really given it a great deep listen outside of the single. But now I have it as an actual disc. I think I'm probably going to dive into it a little bit more because I really enjoyed that We Are Young.
What's on it?
Song. It says, some nights we are young, carry on, it gets better, why am I the one, all alone, all right, 1 foot stars, and out of the town, bonus track.
So Carry On's great, Some Nights are great, and then those are the other two probably big hits from that album.
Okay.
There you go, Tim. Those are your listening. Listen to both of those. That band and there's 3 bands that if I had to pick, maybe I should do this. There's 3 bands. One, I'm stealing this for an episode in the future that I'm going to make Tim listen to that are from around that genre that have that same feel that I think he would like.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't dislike this at all. It's been joked many times I only know music from before 1995, but I like this. I remember when it came out on that Chevy commercial, and I thought that's actually a really good song.
No, they're very good. I like them. And then there's Edward Sharpe and the Magnetic Zeros are really good. They were from that same time frame. And then there is what is it? They did that song. My mind's blanking. Anyway, it'll come to me in a second. I'll yell it out like I yelled Stevie Nicks' name.
Well, I tell you what, Joe, we should do 2 more each.
Okay.
I just looked at the clock, and that's where we've probably got enough for that.
Well, I've got one sitting right here that I'm going to pick up. And this is I was on a 90s kick with my albums for some reason. It's classic Ricky Martin.
Oh, Ricky Martin. Now, does it have Livin' La Vida Loca on it?
Of course. It's a self-titled album, Tim. And the first song is Livin' La Vida Loca. Actually, though, I like Shake Your Bum Bum, which is on here, too.
I'm familiar with that.
Which the Cup of Life was used for the FIFA World Cup for one of their theme songs or something like that. Not that I watch sports, but I do know that. And it has the Spanish version of a lot of his other songs. But yes, I do actually kind of like some of his other music too. I'm not a Ricky Martin hater at all. I think he's fantastic.
Yeah, I have no negative thoughts about Ricky Martin at all.
No, I just picked it. I was like, but I will say The Cup of Life is probably the other one on this album that I really like. And of course, once again, as Tim mentioned, it has great album art of Ricky Martin's face and very modelistic poses. That hair was such a thing. For some reason, he reminds me of like Nick Lachey in these photos. He doesn't look like Ricky Martin to me. Not that matters.
Well, he probably had a fabulous photo shoot. He had a great photographer and lighting and makeup and all that kind of stuff.
Well, he is pretty. So, he's a pretty man, so probably wouldn't take a whole lot, Tim.
Yeah, he has that kind of certainly that picture on that cover. He has that sort of pretty boy look about him.
Yes, he's an attractive man, so I don't think it takes much for the photographer to get anything out of Ricky Martin. But yeah, I saw it and I was like, I must have it. But I don't know much about where Ricky Martin is anymore. This came out in what year was this? I wonder.
Late 90s, mid to late 90s?
1999.
Okay.
There you go. Oh, he did a song with Madonna? Did you know he did a song with? It's called Be Careful, performed by Ricky Martin and Madonna. News to me, but I guess I'll find out when I listen to this album.
There we are, and you can read the liner notes and see who played on it and all kinds of stuff.
There we are.
Fantastic. All right, well, I was lucky to find this one. I paid $1 for this, and this is genuinely an absolutely great album and something I was actually considering buying at full price. So again, sometimes you stumble across gems when you're thrifting, but this is Pearl Jam's 10.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And some thrift shops, ours included, sometimes jack the price up a little bit if it's a great title. And I think I'm personally responsible for this, because when I started going thrifting at MCEAP, everything was 50 cents. And I've been in there every single weekend for the last 3 years, probably, ever since we've lived around here. And I've noticed with my enthusiasm for buying CDs in there and my chats with the ladies behind the counter and them saving me things and then them sometimes giving me piles of stuff that hasn't hit the shelves yet just to have a look at, I've noticed that some of the premium titles have gone up in price.
Went up.
Yeah, all of a sudden, sometimes things are $1 or $2 or $4.
That's so funny, because the MCAP store was the last one I went to. I went to it on Tuesday. I went to everything else on Saturday, or, on Sunday. They're not open on Sunday. So anyway, I was just talking to Charlie in the kitchen, and I said, there has to be at least one person in the store who knows at least a little bit about music. Because I said the good albums that I kept pulling out, I was like, it says 25 cents unless marked. And I said, every good album that I pulled out, it would be like $1, $2. So I said, there's someone who knows something about music marking these albums.
Yeah, and I know the process. I think the guy's name is Dave or Brian. It's something like that. They told me how it works. What happens is they get the CDs and records donated. And then this guy comes and gets them. He takes them home. He goes through all of them to check they're not scratched or damaged. And then he seals them with tape to make sure that they don't fall out in the store. You notice all of them are sealed in the shop.
Yeah. That's the ones that I got from there were the best condition.
Yeah, and then he prices them.
So there you go. I was telling Charlie, I was like, there has to be one person, because it was the more, no offense, the more quality albums. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know, this is a more popular band, but I was like, there's somebody doing it. And no offense to the lady behind the counter, but I didn't think it was her. They're very nice there.
Yeah, and the other thing you can do is if you're a physical media collector, I recommend getting involved with Discogs. So sign up for a Discogs account and put Discogs on your phone. And then if you're in a thrift shop or something, one, you can see in Discogs what's in your collection so you don't buy the stuff again. And secondly, you can scan the barcode in Discogs and it will tell you how much it's worth.
That's smart.
But you don't want to be one of these Discogs people, because I've heard on forums where people go into thrift shops and charity shops and then barcode scan everything and only buy the stuff that has resale value. But so if you go and you think, I wonder if that's the one that's worth it, you go boop, and you go, oh, maybe it's not, and you put it back, and that's fine. But you don't want to go every single title valuing it.
Just buy everything
it's
up. It's
really annoying. Don't do that.
It's okay if you do one or two, but just don't buy them all up. There's other people in the world.
Yeah, I've done that. I've been into a thrift that had Super Audio CDs, which was a format that didn't really take off. And I thought, I wonder if these are worth anything. And I bipped it, and one was like 10 and one was like $15. And I thought, well, I'll buy those. And they're only $1 a piece, so it's fine. But I'm not going to go through every single thing that they have in the shop.
Also, that just takes a lot of time. I will say my husband buys and resells, but he's not going to sit there and go through every album, Tim. That's just weird.
Yes, absolutely, 100%.
All right.
Okay, so Joy, this will be your last thrifting pick. So I'm interested to know, are you going to go out with a bang?
Well, I only have what? Oh, I'm going to go out with a bang. With a bang, I'm just going to go. You guys can hear me move, shuffling all the CDs around. So Tim doesn't have to edit that out at the end. I wish you guys could see Tim's face when this one pops up. It is the Cinderella story theme. So do you remember there was, in the early 90s, there was this early 2000s, all set of the teen love romance movies. Mm-hmm. So this is a classic. It's called the Cinderella story. It's exactly what you think, a rags to riches Cinderella story. But Hilary Duff, who was in this TV show called Lizzie McGuire that I loved as a kid, is the main person in this. And the reason this is so funny is, bless her heart, she did that thing where all the Disney stars thought they could sing. Mm-hmm. And they thought, so the album, out of the entire thing, there's 10 songs on the album, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 are her songs for her movie. Oh. Now, my favorite is the one she did with her sister. They did a version of Our Lips Are Sealed. And She has this. Okay, the tone of her voice is fine, but she's not a singer, if that makes sense. She gave it a really good go, but bless her heart. And there's this other movie she was in, and she was supposed to be like this really good singer at this voice school. And she does this like run, and it's like a TikTok thing. Like she does this vocal run, and I mean, and the whole class is like, "Oh my God, that was so good!" But now everybody's going back and watching and seeing how cringeworthy it was. So this is mostly just for fun. I'm probably never going to listen to it, but she just had that very soft kind of baby doll sound that was popular too. Mm-hmm. And I mean, is she the worst singer in the world? No. Did she need? But I just thought it's funny that it's her movie and the 90% of the soundtrack is just her version of like Our Lips Are Sealed. And then to top it all off, Tim, the album artwork, as Tim was pointing out, it's just different scenes from the movie. And if that doesn't look 90s or early 2000s, they kind of all run together for me. I don't know what does.
What does that page says? Coming fall something?
Oh, her multi-place. Oh, yeah, when she did Metamorphosis. Coming fall 2004, Hillary's follow-up multi-platinum debut album. How is it multi-platinum if it's not even out yet, Tim?
Projected sales, Joyce. Projected
Metamorphosis,
sales.
found at hillaryduffmusic.com. And by the way, that has like a little, I'm not ripping this. It sounds like I'm ripping it, but you can like take this with you to keep it separate. Oh, what's on the back? Hillary Duff, The Girl Can Rock DVD. It's a VIP special season behind her concert, Tim.
Oh, wow. Well, you know, if you're very lucky, if you carry on thrifting, you might find that.
I'll have to find Metamorphosis and put it in the next extension of this. But yeah, it's my favorite part is the fact that it says multi-platinum debut album. I'm like, you said it hasn't even come out yet. Don't they have to make record sales before they hit platinum status? Oh, God. Okay, that's funny. She was signed to Hollywood Records, by the way, which I don't know very much about them, but I don't think they're the top notch of the top notch.
You would be completely wrong, Joy. Hollywood Records.
I've never heard of them.
It's the record wing of Disney.
Oh, okay. That's why she was signed by him. Okay.
Yeah, because I know that because Queen are on EMI in the UK and they used to be on Elektra in the US and then now on Hollywood Records, and Hollywood Records is the Disney label.
Well, that makes sense that she was on it. I don't know. I guess Disney probably produced this movie then too. But there you go, Tim. That's my going out with a bang. I didn't know you could get platinum status without your album being out yet, though. You should just start saying that at all times, Tim. Debuting my new platinum album. I'm going to close out with something incredibly strong, assuming it plays. Okay.
So I'm closing out with Beatles 1.
Oh, okay.
Which is a great compilation.
I own that one.
Yeah, it's 27 tracks of the Beatles on one CD. And really, if you're a casual Beatles fan or you just want to have, as Alan Partridge would say, the best of the Beatles, this is the one that you want. And I was very pleased to find this in a thrift because, you know, this is a good album and it's probably cost
I bought that one like when it came out from the actual store.
Yeah, and it's probably cost you $16 if you buy brand new or something like that. However, I have yet to try and play it because I did notice that the back of the CD is a little scuffed. And I did say earlier that it doesn't really matter too much. But I don't know whether my CD player's error correction is going to be able to work with this successfully. But I'm going to give it a try because if this had been anything else apart from a Beatles album, I would have hard passed on it. But given the fact it's Beatles 1, I thought, well, let's see if this is going to play. So I will report back. I'll have a report on your desk on Monday morning letting you know whether it played.
I have two things to end it with. One, I've got something hot off the presses. No Name Music Cast original, I guess, hot news, whatever it is.
News. That's what you're looking for. That's the word I was looking
for. The other thing is, I love how Tim's like, are you going to leave it with something strong? And I'm like, yeah, the Cinderella story. And then Tim's like, the Beatles. Very defining our personalities with that last. Brought it home strong for me, Joy. The other thing that's hot off the presses, I don't know if you saw on your phone yet, Tim, but a listener of the podcast. Her name is Saz. She, not her real name, but that's what she goes by. She says, coming soon. No Name Music Cast Bingo Card Volume 2.
Ooh, fantastic.
So we will be debuting a new bingo card as time comes.
I literally cannot wait to see that. Saz was the original inventor of the new No Name Music Cast bingo card. And as creator, I cannot wait for volume 2. Fantastic. Thank you, Saz.
Oh, Nathaniel Ratcliffe. That's the name of the band.
Oh,
it's Nathaniel Ratcliffe and the Night Sweats. Anyway, all right, with that, I'll let it go. Bye.
See you later. Bye-bye.